I was still holding the ultrasound photo when he fired me. Not even 5 minutes before, I'd been staring at that tiny blur on paper, my fingers shaking, heart racing. That flicker of a heartbeat had changed everything, terrified me, yes, but also lit something up inside me I didn't even know I was missing. I was going to be a mom. And for the first time in a long time, I felt whole. Then he called me into his office. He didn't even pretend to make small talk. He just looked up, barely met my eyes, and said, "We're making some restructuring decisions. Your position is being eliminated effective immediately." I blinked. That's it. After 6 years after building his firm's brand from scratch, pulling all-nighters while he was in Cabo with his girlfriend, no warning. No thank you. Just gone. I opened my mouth to respond, to ask why, to beg maybe, but I saw it then. The way his eyes darted to the corner of my desk. To the picture. The ultrasound. That's when I knew. It wasn't about my performance. It wasn't restructuring. It was because I was pregnant. He thought I'd be a liability. He thought maternity leave was weakness. He thought I wouldn't fight back. He didn't say any of that, of course. Cowards like him rarely do. They hide behind paperwork and HR buzzwords and fake sympathy. But that day, something shifted inside me. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood up, folded the photo carefully into my purse, and walked out. He thought I'd disappear. He thought I'd be too busy with morning sickness and nursery colors to notice what he'd done. But what he didn't know, what he never understood, was that motherhood wasn't going to make me softer. It was going to make me sharper. And I wasn't done with him. Not by a long shot. Before all this, I really believed in loyalty. In earning your place. In proving yourself. I started at that company as an intern. I was 22, living off instant noodles and rent-splitting with 2 strangers in a 1-bedroom. I didn't care. I was hungry. Determined. I wanted to build something. I wanted to matter. And I did. Within 2 years, I was running the branding department. 5 years in, I was his right hand, pitching to clients, training new hires, practically breathing life into that company every single day. He used to call me his secret weapon. Said I had the instincts he lacked. That I was the reason our biggest clients stayed. We were a team, or so I thought. His name was Daniel. Charming in a polished, boardroom kind of way. Not loud, not crude, just calculated. The type of man who always had a glass of scotch in his hand and a compliment in his mouth, even when he was aiming for your back. I used to admire him. Genuinely. He built the company from scratch. He had the big vision. I had the groundwork. It worked. He took me to client dinners. Introduced me to investors. Called me family during staff meetings. Even hugged me once when we landed our biggest account yet and whispered, "I couldn't have done it without you." Looking back, I can still hear how fake it sounded. But I didn't hear it then. Back then, I believed in that office more than I believed in anything. I skipped vacations, canceled dates, worked holidays. I thought hard work earned you security. I thought being indispensable meant you were safe. When I found out I was pregnant, I hesitated for days before telling anyone. Not because I was ashamed, because I was scared. Scared of exactly what ended up happening. But still, I let myself believe he'd support me. I told him during a quiet moment in the break room. No audience, just him and me. His smile was tight. Professional. Too quick. He said, "Congrats. That's big news." And then he walked away. The air shifted after that. Meetings I once led were passed to someone else. Clients were slowly rerouted. My access to certain files started glitching. I was suddenly out of the loop. At first, I blamed myself. Maybe I was imagining it. Maybe I was hormonal. But no, I wasn't imagining the way people started avoiding my eyes. How HR asked me for transition plans, even though I hadn't announced any leave yet. Then came that meeting. That final restructuring excuse. And that's when the realization hit me, hard and cold. To him, I wasn't a partner. I was never family. I was a tool. One that had, in his eyes, expired. He didn't fire me because I was bad at my job. He fired me because he thought being a mother meant I wouldn't fight. He was wrong. It was 2 weeks after he let me go when the reality finally caught up to me. I was sitting on the floor of my apartment, no job, no income, holding my growing belly, wondering how I was going to do this alone. I hadn't told anyone what had happened yet. Not my friends. Not even my partner. I felt ashamed. Like I'd been kicked out of a club I built myself. I kept replaying that moment in his office over and over in my head. The way he looked past me. The way he'd already printed the paperwork. It wasn't a last-minute decision. It was planned. Cold. Deliberate. He didn't even ask if I was okay. And I sat there, silent, folding under the weight of it, like I didn't deserve better. But there was this one night I remember vividly. I couldn't sleep. The baby had started kicking, soft little flutters that felt like reminders I'm here. Keep going. So I got up, made tea, sat by the window, and I thought about everything I'd given that man. Every idea, every late night, every contract saved at the last minute. I thought about how I had trained the woman he gave my projects to. How he once told me, "I trust your judgment more than my own." How I used to feel proud of the title on my email signature. Then I remembered the smirk he tried to hide as I walked out with my things. That's when the numbness broke. That's when the fire came. Anger didn't feel like rage, it felt like clarity. Like finally waking up. He thought he had the upper hand. That I'd crawl away quietly and he'd never have to face me again. That night, I opened my laptop. I pulled up the company's real estate holdings, scanned the ownership documents. It didn't take much. I still had access to certain accounts. The firm's location was leased, not owned. And I remembered something, an old conversation we had years ago when we were still close. He said he chose the building because it had status, but didn't want the commitment of buying. Always lease when you're scaling, he'd told me. Keep your options open. He'd kept his options open. So maybe I would too. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do yet, but I knew this. He wasn't walking away from this clean. Not after what he'd done. Not after how he'd made me feel disposable. He took my security. My dignity. My place. And that's when I knew he had made the biggest mistake of his career. Because the woman he fired. She was about to become his landlord. I didn't tell anyone what I was doing. Not even my partner. I needed this to be mine. Quiet. Controlled. Precise. I started with research. Not gossip, not rumors, real, legal, financial information. I spent weeks poring over public records, lease agreements, property listings. Turns out, the building wasn't just leased, it was up for sale. Quietly. Off-market. The owner was an older couple looking to retire and cash out. Perfect. I still had some money saved, years of bonuses I never touched, stock options I liquidated after the layoff. Not enough to buy a commercial property outright, but enough to make a strategic move. So I got creative. I reached out to a friend from college who now ran a small investment firm. She was one of the few people I trusted, and more importantly, she knew real estate. I pitched the idea carefully, framed it as a smart long-term investment. Prime location, strong anchor tenants, growing neighborhood. I didn't mention the personal connection. Not yet. She was in. We set up a holding company under a neutral name. Something vague. Professional. We arranged the deal through a commercial real estate broker I'd once helped land a big account when I was still at the firm. He owed me. I called in that favor. Everything was done by the book. No drama. No noise. Every signature was clean, every document airtight. In parallel, I started studying the lease my old company had with the building. I still remembered the firm's legal counsel. She used to gossip during lunch. She once told me the lease was generous because Daniel wanted to impress clients with a big office, but didn't want to commit long-term. She wasn't kidding. It was month to month. No protection. No renewal clause. Just 30 days notice. I couldn't believe it when I read the fine print. The man who built a whole brand around power and image was operating without a safety net. Typical. He was all appearance. All surface. Never thought the floor beneath him could be pulled out. Once the paperwork cleared and the sale closed, I waited a week. Just one. Then, from our holding company, we sent a notice to all tenants outlining minor building changes, repairs, upgrades, nothing major. Then came his letter. 30 days notice of non-renewal. No explanation. No fanfare. Just a quiet ending. The broker hand-delivered it to his receptionist. No one even knew my name was attached. Not yet. I imagined his face when he read it. The confusion. The arrogance kicking in. There must be a mistake. This isn't how things work. I know people. But it was real. And it was legal. He had 30 days to vacate. And there was nothing he could do. The first sign that it was working came in the form of a panicked email sent to the building manager. He didn't sign it himself, of course. Daniel always had someone else do his begging. It was his new assistant this time, asking, pleading for clarification. Was the lease really ending? Could it be extended? Was there any mistake? There wasn't. My manager responded professionally. The landlord has chosen not to renew your lease. Please be prepared to vacate by the stated deadline. I imagined Daniel pacing in his glass office, staring down at the street from that corner view he used to brag about. That office used to be mine. I had picked the furniture. I chose the logo behind the desk. And now it was slipping through his fingers. In the days that followed, he tried everything. Emails, phone calls, even a letter from a lawyer, though they must have realized quickly how airtight the notice was. There was no loophole, no appeal. The building was under new ownership, and the new ownership wanted him out. Simple. The cherry on top, a week before the deadline, we hosted a private investor walkthrough. The kind of thing that happens all the time in real estate, harmless, normal. Except I made sure I was there. Dressed in black, clipboard in hand, blending in with the group of executives touring the space. I didn't announce myself. I didn't need to. But he saw me. He was coming down the hall, a file in his hand, stress on his face. And for one perfect moment, our eyes met. He froze. I smiled. Just slightly. His lips parted like he was about to say something, ask, accuse, demand. But what could he say? I didn't work for him anymore. He had no power over me. Not in that building. Not in that moment. He turned away first. A week later, his company was gone. No farewell party. No announcement. Just movers and silence. I kept one thing from his office, the framed motivational quote that used to hang behind his desk. Success is the best revenge. I hung it in the hallway outside the conference room. No one else knows where it came from. But I do. It's been 8 months since he left. The office feels different now. Lighter. Like it's finally breathing again. We renovated the space. New tenants. A small startup moved into his old suite, young, scrappy, mostly women. I gave them a discounted rate. They don't know the history. They don't need to. Sometimes, I walk the halls late in the afternoon when it's quiet. I run my hand along the railings I used to grip on bad days. I stand by the window he once looked out of like he owned the world. And I remember that version of myself, tired, scared, trying not to cry as I packed up my desk. I want to tell her you didn't lose. You were never small. You just hadn't arrived yet. I didn't take his company. I didn't ruin his life. That was never the goal. This wasn't about revenge in the way people think. It was about remembering who I was. Who I am. He thought pregnancy made me weaker. But it made me more powerful than he could imagine. Because the truth is, I didn't just give life to a child. I gave life to a new version of myself, one who doesn't ask for permission to exist. I don't know where Daniel is now. I don't care. Maybe he started over. Maybe he still tells himself it was just bad timing, just business. Let him. Because he'll never know the full story. Never know who signed the notice. Who held the keys. Who watched him walk out the very door he once made me leave through. And the best part. He still doesn't know it was me.